Hi, everyone, and thanks for coming to Collide here today at the Mill, or virtually anyway. My name is Sam Welsch Sveen, and I'll be your host today, chatting with our guest, Torlando Hakes, a serial entrepreneur and business development genius. So let me tell you about the Mill real quick. Most of you folks are already here, but for people who don't know, we're a center of co-working and community in Bloomington, Indiana. Our mission is to launch and accelerate high potential companies in a beautifully renovated 19,000 square foot historic building with lots of desks, natural lighting, a nice printer, and so much more. As COVID times slowly slow down, we're working at the Mill to create a safe space for our co-working members and invite you to check out our website or our building IRL if you're ready to get out of the house and find a refreshing place to get some work done. We've done several things to make it a safer place and reduce contact, from touchless faucets and one-way traffic arrows throughout the building to ultraviolet air filtration installed in our HVAC system. So pretty cool stuff here at the Mill. Thanks to our sponsors, as always. We've got the City of Bloomington, Cook Group, Indiana University, and many more. And especially to German American Bank, who sponsors Collide in particular by buying everyone's lunch. Well, they used to when we could eat lunch together. And someday we'll eat lunch together again. Anyway, German American has a great team of bankers and has been helping small businesses with loans and government aid throughout the COVID crisis. So if you need any financial help, call German American Bank. Okay, so today, let me tell you what we're going to do. We're going to have go through a slideshow with our host, Torlando, or our guest rather, and for some context and examples of what he's up to. Then we'll have a little more open discussion and take some questions from y'all. So be thinking of questions if you have them and chat them in through the Zoom thing, or we can unmute you when it's time. And then we'll finish with our highly questionable Collide Quick Quiz, a rapid fire way to get to know our guest, Torlando. And lastly, surprise, twist, I've discovered a new thing it's a new meeting thing on the internet called Online Town, which combines a Zoom-like meeting with old school two-dimensional video gaming. So you can wander around and mingle with anyone here. It just might feel like real life mingling. And we might even be on a beach. Actually, I found a slightly different background than the beach, but yeah, there's this new app that I want to try. It's not even an app, you just go to the link. So that'll be pretty cool. And, oh, hold on here. And next month, there he is. John Armstrong from Pegasus Pictures, a local Indiana-based film company, and he's going to be our guest next month. And he also leads the Bloomington Academy of Film and Theater, known as BAFT. And he's got really cool. Let's see. The titles of Pegasus Pictures include The Good Catholic and Ms. White. If you remember when Danny Glover was in town, that was these guys. And he also runs the BAFT, as I mentioned, helping Bloomingtonians of all ages share really nice camera equipment and learn how to use it. So if you're interested in film stuff, be sure to come next month, the third Thursday, September 17th. And all right, with that, I'm going to end my screen share and say hello. Maybe you see me now outside of the Mill with orange umbrellas on a nice day. Here I am. So you didn't see me this whole time. It was just the slides. Okay, well, I tried. Now, hi, Torlando. Say something, Torlando, so you pop up as the speaker, and then we'll jump into our slideshow.
Yeah.
How you doing, Torlando?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great. We're going to jump into your slideshow. Maybe. It's going to try. This should be it. Here we go. So these are the slides that Torlando has prepared, and we're just going to kind of go through these, and then I'm interested in some other topics. So we'll hear exactly what Torlando is up to, and then we will talk about some other stuff too. All right, there we go. You got your slides of Torlando?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So let's get into it. You're the Director of Business Development at Periodic. You're also an entrepreneur, author, and speaker and podcaster. So yeah, here's your podcast, and here is scheduler, Periodic. Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast and then your role at Periodic?
Yeah, definitely. So recently I was asked by the Painting Contractors Association to become the new host of an already established podcast called Paint Ed, where we bring in contractors from all around the country, and as well as some of the leading experts in areas related to trade, businesses and different things related to sales and marketing and operations and finances. And so that's a resource that we provide to the paint industry. And I have a co-host and a whole production staff behind it. And it's a really great thing. So that's new. And we just recorded our first episode last Monday. And we also are gearing up. We had began at Periodic to do our own podcast, and then COVID hit, and we were all sent home, and the podcast studio shut down. And so as we're back in the office here, we're gearing up to do that. At Periodic, my role.
Sorry, Torlando, for those folks who don't know you, you have a history of painting. You owned or still own Color Theory?
Yeah. So since 2010, I was the owner of Color Theory here in Bloomington, and we did residential painting and a lot of color consulting, and that's kind of how I got involved in the Painting Contractors Association. And just through participating at those events, I started speaking and doing a lot of different things within and for the industry, including the book that I wrote. It's primarily for paint contractors. So yeah, that's my history. And this last year, I decided that my personal mission was a little bit different from the mission of Color Theory, and I wanted to switch the trajectory of my career. And I had been working with Periodic as a customer at Color Theory. We had used Periodic to automate our sales funnel so that you could schedule estimates online and do some other nifty stuff. And so we just built a really great relationship as me being a customer. And at the beginning of the year, we decided that it made sense to work together and pursue a similar vision and similar goals.
Cool. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the Periodic vision and goals. And then here's the next slide of you speaking at an event. Your photo got a little wrong there, but there's your book too.
Yeah. So yeah, here that's a picture of me speaking at the PCA National Expo. There were around 1,000 contractors that had come from all over the country and the world, from Canada and other places. And I was a keynote presenter, and in this particular presentation, I was talking about why it's important to have a dedicated mission, a personal mission that sustains you and motivates you to get up and get out of bed every morning. And the book Sprint is it's a book that I wrote. It's kind of a production manual. So I started using SCRUM and Agile as a paint contractor, which, if anybody in the call here is familiar with SCRUM, it's usually used in software development. But I was one day I was just kind of thinking about all of my production woes and all of the challenges that were facing me, and I was watching the show Silicon Valley. Have you ever seen that?
I have.
Show. It's an HBO show. It's a comedy. It's really funny. It's about programmers and startups and stuff like that. And there's this episode where they're talking about how do we get these tickets for different different pieces of code or different features through. And one of the characters says, "We need Scrum," and I'm like, I wonder if that's a real thing. And so I looked it up. I did a little research. I read a white paper, and I started reading. I was like, oh my gosh, this would work for paint jobs. And so I tailored it to my paint company, and ended up being asked by the PCA to run a workshop on the production method. I started to write a short workbook to go along with the online webinar. But by the time I got halfway into it, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have a full book here. And so we just decided to go with it, and I published it. It's on Amazon. People are buying it. It's kind of cool, and it just helps paint contractors run their business in a way that allows them to increase collaboration, reduce the amount of overall meetings, and produce work in a really consistent way.
Cool. Cool. So those are kind of your personal projects. And then I want to keep moving a little bit, but let's hear what Periodic is doing. And the gig economy right now is a big thing for you. How are you guys adapting to COVID? Let's hear it.
Yeah, definitely. So just kind of an overview of what Periodic does. We build a platform. It's a white label platform for things like building dynamic forms, scheduling appointments, processing payments online, and building entire marketplaces that can power things like the gig economy. And so a lot of the customers that have been coming to us, especially since COVID, have been coming up with ideas that are specifically to solve COVID-related problems. So we have one customer who we've consulted with and worked with, who needed to. He was a venue. He had a music venue, and obviously musicians and his business it couldn't perform. They couldn't do anything, and so he had this concept of allowing people in their homes to search for a local or regional musician, book a time for them to come and play a show in their front yard, and they could invite their friends and kind of spread people out in a socially distant, safe way. And they've got a growing base of musicians on there, well over 200 now, and they work with us on that. Another customer that recently has come on is a startup that they're involved in wine tastings and beer tastings. And so the idea is that through a Zoom call, they would be able to invite a party of their friends and order different wines, and they would get shipped to their house, and then they would have like a sommelier or something like that guiding them through the tasting, and then they can have this little virtual party and still socialize and do this in a way that's totally it's just pure COVID. It's just like a problem that was purely born out of the pandemic. And so we're seeing a lot of people come to us that have these kind of ideas, and it's really interesting to me how people innovate in times of a unified crisis.
Cool. Yeah. So you're setting up marketplaces for these niches. So you got the curbside concerts, the musician folks, the wine and beer tasting.
Mm-hmm.
You've got one that you're excited about for power washing your home.
Mm-hmm.
So these niches that you're building the marketplace. When you were telling me, we prepped for this meeting, and could you just explain like the marketplace concept and like how you do that for each, where does Periodic fit in terms of like making money? Like, do you take a cut, and like, what does the marketplace mean that you're setting up?
Yeah, so a gig marketplace is a single vertical. It's usually a single vertical. Sometimes it's multiple. But so like an example would be like TaskRabbit. TaskRabbit would be multiple vertical, like multiple things that people come in and need. But the ones that you're probably using today would be, you're getting into an Uber driver, or you're using Instacart to get your groceries delivered. Those are examples of gig marketplaces where the end user, the consumer, has a need of a service, and then a gig worker has a need of earning extra cash, whether on the side or whether to transition from, maybe they've been laid off, or maybe they're in between jobs and they just need something that can stabilize their income while they, think of the next thing. And in some cases, people will they'll quit their job completely and just do the gig work, full time. the Instacart is one that I take advantage of. I have young kids, taking them to the store as a hand. It's already a pain in the butt. But you know, right now with making sure that they have the mask and everybody's around there, it's just a lot easier for me to have my groceries delivered. The people that come to my door, those are the gig workers, right? They go and do the grocery shopping on my behalf. The app facilitates it, and they get paid. And so what Periodic is able to do is to be the engine or the platform that that whatever, you know, gig vertical that our customers have, or the ones that we came up with, like the power washing one, our technology enables it enables like the whole process to be facilitated, because there's just this like growing division, I think, between you know, you have the brand and you have the idea and you have the service, and then you have on the other end you have the person who's doing it, or the service technician, or the fulfillment process. And in between, what I think that we're going to see more and more is that the in between will be the technology that facilitates the marketing of brand and the purchase, rather than having a larger, more complicated, people-driven middleman. The technology is becoming the middle. And so that's kind of what Periodic has the capacity to offer. You know, and that's something that I'm becoming more and more passionate about as I think about the quality of work and the opportunities that are available to people. I think that gig work is a really great opportunity for people to transition out of employment and start to think in a more entrepreneurial way.
Cool. And just one kind of mechanical question about how that works is, it's like regionalized, right? So you have a city, like you have to do it within a city. It's like this, it's scalable across the country or the globe, but you still have it individualized for each city. So like your power washing thing is based in Houston, and then you have kind of a head power washer guy based there, right? Like how does that control of the brand and all that sort of shake out?
So depending on the particular vertical, you need people on the ground, especially if the service is traditionally more localized, right? So power washing companies, the vast majority of power washing companies are local companies with a local head. And so with Rinse House, our strategy is to find those local representatives that can act as an area developer to you know, promote locally, to recruit locally, and to be kind of a you know, a service representative in that area, so that when customers might have a problem or an issue, or staffing becomes an issue, that it just works a little bit easier there. But another customer of ours, you know, Nation, for example, they're an African hair care salon vertical based in the UK. You know, they don't necessarily need to have like a regional representative. They can control everything from their headquarters, but they do have to have the practitioners in the area, in the cities that they're going to be able to do the work. So, I mean, the thing with gig work is that it's usually service-based, and so there has to be an interaction between the service provider and the consumer.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So that all makes sense. I want to kind of transition then. So interacting with people, service stuff. It was fun to talk to you in preparing for this about Zoom meetings in general, and how it's kind of tough to communicate. And I was like wishing there was something a little bit better. But you were saying like, you know, maybe Zoom is actually teaching us to actually listen better, and you know, you wait for your turn to speak. So maybe we are communicating, we're learning to communicate differently or something. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think that the idea is
just other ways I want to take this conversation, and we'll wrap it up fairly soon, but other ways I want to take it is you were talked about just kind of adaptions to the new COVID world and how the future can be better. And one neat thing, sorry, I'm rambling here, and we'll just go where you want to go. But you were excited about at restaurants. Now there's no paper menu, or sometimes there are not paper menus. Instead, there's a QR code so the menu pops up on your phone, and now they can change that menu all the time, and they can adapt it to as a marketing thing. Like, oh, they know you like nachos. We're going to give you a big picture of nachos on your phone, or like, so those kind of innovations that are adapting around COVID.
Yeah. So, the big premise is that people adapt around a crisis. When there's a unified crisis going on, people get really creative to figure out ways to work around the crisis, or to improve the situation, surrounding the crisis. And there are things that come out of that sometimes that it just ends up being a better way of doing it. And the restaurant menus and the QR codes was an example that I just experienced, that I felt like, man, okay, now they don't want to, they want to reduce the amount of touching of menus and transmitting things. And so they're like, okay, if we could just do a QR code, then people can pull up their phone, open up their camera, and then that will take them to a website where they can view the menu. And you just get used to that as you go out and eat, and you see that they've got the QR code taped down onto the table. You just pull out your phone, and that's a faster way of getting the menu. It's an easier way of seeing the options. And like you said, the web designers can have more creative ways of selling food, and it's a really like important thing. And it's not only important because it's convenient, but it's important because it accelerates growth. McDonald's had a study where they were studying the difference between their tap and touch menu that you go in and you touch and you build your order, compared to going up to the cash register. And they found that when people build their own menu order on the digital touchscreen, that they spend 33% more than when they purchase at the counter, right? And so being able to build your order is something that's very powerful for restaurants. And so now being able to do that in your phone and being able to just see what's on there, there's a huge opportunity, and ultimately it will become a better way of doing things. And so, going back to what you were talking about just before then, which was what were we talking about before then?
Zoom communication and listening better.
Zoom.
Learning
Yeah,
to
that's right.
better. Yeah,
that's right. So Zoom, in particular for sales meetings, or just production meetings, think about all the time that we're able to save by reducing travel time. We don't have to be face to face all the time. People are becoming more comfortable with it. It's just a more efficient way to communicate. And maybe you could make an argument that the quality of the interaction is not as deep or meaningful because it's not in person, but the quality might be made up for with quantity. And you may, I think we'll probably adapt to different communication styles because of just because of the format. There's always a lot of like, oh, you go, no, you go. Like, you've probably experienced that, where it's like there's lag, and like, okay, you go. So, the point that I was making earlier was that, if we have to wait until somebody is finished talking, and we have to be more attentive and listen more, that may make us better listeners. And listening is so important to all types of communication problems that you're trying to solve within business. And I think in particular in sales, being able to listen to your customers' needs and really hear them, that's what really helps them to trust you, is when they feel heard. So I do believe that a lot of the things that we're experiencing right now will ultimately help us to communicate in better ways, to produce things in better ways, to evolve and adapt our society in better ways. And they'll just, we'll have these vestiges of, COVID era that are just interwoven into our society that will forget that there was ever a different way of doing it.
Yeah, cool. I'd like to share one little example of a COVID change in my life that continues to blow people's minds when I tell them. I'm kind of joking, but actually kind of not. And then we'll jump into the Collide Quick Quiz. So when I go grocery shopping, I got this idea kind of from Aldi, but you just go cart when you're, instead of having your bags in, because you can't take bags in, and reusable bags, like we all know reusable bags kind of suck, or I mean non-reusable bags. And so I just go groceries, and then I put it on the thing, and then I go run and grab another grocery cart and load it straight into the grocery cart, which I learned from Aldi. But the second step is, once you get into your car, instead of putting it into reusable bags or whatever, or like jumbling a handful of groceries, laundry baskets. So that's my next business is laundry baskets rebranded as grocery baskets. If anyone wants to jump on board, we're taking investments. Just kidding. It's a laundry basket. Anyway, let's jump into the Collide Quick Quiz. And a few of these questions don't make sense because we didn't exactly talk about, well, one of them doesn't make sense because we didn't talk about it. So I'm going to talk about it right now, is that one of your scheduling apps for one of your scheduling applications of periodic is at a BMW place, a lot of car dealerships for test drives, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Now that we know that you do that, one of these questions will make more sense. Okay. So let's see here. Podcast, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
You're ready. Okay, so it's the deal is I do blank or blank, and then you have to just answer one or the other, or you can do trick question and have a third answer. That's okay too. But just try not to overthink it. Just say whichever comes to mind first. All right.
Got it.
Podcast or book?
Book.
BMW or Mercedes?
Mercedes.
Text or voice text?
Text.
Okay, and so you're a painter, so paint brush or roller?
Depends on what you're painting.
Okay, and lastly, strict schedule or go with the flow?
I kind of like going with the flow.
Nice, cool. All right, well, that's the Collide Quick Quiz. And like oftentimes, I realized I forgot to take questions from the audience. I have one lined up from Jane here, I see. And we have 2 minutes, 1 minute left. So let's do a few questions. If people want to ask any questions, we'll open it up to that. Torlando, can you see Jane's question? Or I'll read it too. It says, what about a gig marketplace that would allow auction type bidding in real time plus payment for the auction winner? So kind of like eBay, but more real time, I guess.
But more real time, like a video maybe, like the auctioneer gets on and does this whole thing. Yeah, I mean.
Well, Torlando, let me clarify. I'm involved with a not-for-profit that is moving a fundraising gala to a Zoom meeting. We usually create an auction environment for fund a need. So there's a tee up for the need, and then this is Shalom. So you've attended our gala, so you know.
Yes.
How would we do that?
Boy, do I know.
Is there an opportunity for the attendees on a Zoom call to bid, and it goes fast, and then there's a winner, and they're converted to a payment option?
Are you talking about for what we're doing, or it just in general, does something exist that could facilitate a bid?
Certainly if something exists, but I was thinking of engaging periodic for that, and I'm just wondering how broad the custom apps might be.
Yeah, so the way that our business model works is we have a base set of features that out of the box, they're going to work and adapt and everything. And then we have kind of a customized bespoke thing where just kind of case by case, we'll decide whether that's a project that we could do really well at or not. With what you're talking about, I would probably have to talk to our team about it. But I think that there are things surrounding, event registration and getting into the Zoom meeting that could work really well. And in terms of the auction items, I'm not so sure.
I'm going to be in the mill next week, late next week, and I'll just catch Brad on that. But my other question was about your book, Sprint, and you sort of tee it up as for paint contractors and that whole ecosystem. But I'm wondering if it has more broader appeal by distilling some of the tenets that are in SCRUM that it could be more broadly of interest.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. I think part of the strategy for me to go to that specific audience was to kind of build my thought leadership, build my authority among that specific audience, and then allow that to kind of take me into a new space. So, one of the communities that I'm heavily involved in is the Story Brand community, which is based off of Donald Miller's book, Building a Story Brand. And, I have in the back of my mind adapting Sprint to marketing agencies and how you can apply SCRUM to marketing agencies. But realistically, I could probably go on my computer, duplicate the book, and do a find and replace with painters and insert roofers or contractors, carpenters. I could just I could easily do that, and the principles would apply.
Great. Thank you.
Cool. Well, any other questions? Anyone got out there for Torlando regarding painting stuff or scheduling or anything like that? And if not, there's still a few people in the meeting. I wanted to try this new thing called Online Town, theonline.town. I'm going to put a link here, and no pressure, but if anyone wants to check it out, you just click on the link, and then the password is Collide with a capital C. And you can kind of wander around and bump into each other. I know at least Andy was a fan of it. So yeah, we can head there. We can kind of wrap this up. And thanks for coming today to Collide. It's August 20th. And the next Collide will be September 17th with, I didn't actually mention his name, John Armstrong. He is the film guy again. He runs Pegasus Pictures and BAFT, Bloomington Academy of Film and Theater. Spelled the British way, theater, in case you're wondering. So he's a really nice guy. I've had lunch with him before. So going to hear what they're up to. And yeah, with that, I think let's say thanks again to Torlando. If anyone wants to give like a clap emoji thing, that might feel nice for Torlando. I'm going to give him a clap emoji thing. Ready? There it is. All right, well, wrap it up. I guess I'll leave the meeting open for a little while, but go ahead and click into the other thing if you want to. It's in the chat. You've got the Online Town, and check it out and see if we like that at all. And it's called, the password is Collide, capital